Hello, my name is Joan. I'm from the Faroe Islands.
I'm Ingrid from Norway.
My name is Bibi and I'm from Greenland.
My name is Thomas Mattsson. I'm from Åland.
My name is Svantis. I come from Iceland.
So my name is Anne-Sophie Wolf and I'm from the Danish Youth Council.
I'm Sanna. I'm from the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture.
I'm Shahram Ansari. I'm a researcher at the Ombudsman for Children in Sweden.
Hello. Let's be easy. So 10-2.
I think it has been very interesting and inspiring to be here for those 2 days. I am especially impressed by the voice by the young people and the solution they expressed by themselves. For example, they told us that the school system have to be more proactive instead of reactive. For example, we could teach the children and the young people about life skills.
I appreciate that on this conference we are representatives from both NGOs and government. So it's a broad perspective on mental well-being, and that's really good.
My reflections of the first day of the conference is that mental well-being is important for all young people, and when we talk about mental well-being we should not forget the minorities. So, for example, disabled young people are young people as well, and we should be listened to when it is regarding our mental well-being.
And one question that we have discussed in the workshop is access to meaningful leisure. We try to turn that question around. What does meaningful leisure mean to youth? And what, beyond access, is the content and qualities of activities. And that is very important, to ask youth and involve them continuously in a dialogue about that.
The Nordic region should emphasize the meaning of holistic approach with a focus on multidisciplinary cooperation, early support and preventive measures.
We have some things that we have in common that we do in the different Nordic countries, but we also have some differences where I think we can learn from each other, and some projects that we can exchange with each other.
We need funding, we need to keep up the social programs, we need to provide youth with places to show up, to form a community, and there's a lot of prevention in that.
For me it's very important that we have we include the young people, also the children, to know their rights.
Yeah, this is the idea. Oh, let me upload. Hello and so welcome to this digital seminar that we will have together for this hour. I hope you are as excited as I am. This will be a seminar where we will present the results of a conference that had in Stockholm in the beginning of November as a part of the big Nordic project Youth Perspective on Well-being. Today we will focus on the results of the conference, on the dialogues that we had there and what those dialogue had for outcome. This will be 1 hour, my friend. And I hope you will focus as much as you possibly can during this hour. I know it could be extremely easy when you are on this digital meeting to, in the same time, answer some very, very important email to your boss. Or maybe just Google this interesting shopping thing for Christmas to one of your kids. Or just do something else. But I just take a chance right now to just focus on being here, and maybe also drink the best kind of coffee you like, so you really can focus, or sit on the best place in your apartment in the nicest sofa, or if you are in the office, on the best place in the office, or just put up your feet on your desk or whatever makes you the best persons of yourself during this hour together. All right, promise me that. Thank you so much for that. I think many of you that listen to this show also have been a part of this project in one way or another, but maybe some of you are here for the first time, or are here for your, just Google around YouTube and find this should be extremely interesting to watch on. What is this? Youth and well-being. And this is a great project that's been on for a whole year, funded by the Nordic Council and the European Union, and run by the Swedish Agency for Youth and Civil Affairs, where I, Linus, work, and had the honor to be the project leader of this project. This project has been all about the youth perspective on well-being. But it's also an agency-driven process where we, as an agency, national agency, have put the agenda. We have decided which topic we should talk about and in which way we should talk about this topic. But to make sure we have the youth perspective, we went out in the beginning of the project and meet up with a lot of youth organizations in the Nordic countries. We've been in Norway, in Denmark, in Iceland and in Sweden, and we have connected with all the other countries and regions too, to make sure that the discussion we had on this conference was from a youth perspective. And in the same time, we went out and looked to the agencies, the national countries, the Nordic councils, to see what did they discuss about well-being, what do they think was the important task, so we make sure that we could have a meaningful meeting together, that we talked about the right things, and that we can get the youth perspective on something that's actually there are interest of change or ideas. So we invited then 80 persons to Stockholm in the beginning of November. 40 of those were from youth organizations. Many of them were the leader of their organization, had a bigger role in those organizations, so they could be talking for their organization and all their members. And also 40 persons that worked mainly on agencies in the different Nordic countries or at the Nordic councils. So the meeting was when we put these two together to try to find solutions or idea or understanding each other perspectives on well-being. And we talked about education, about participation, about the meaningful lectures, proactive support and care, and maybe one of the most important, safe childhoods, and different other topics too. The idea of this conference is to show that we can work together and find solutions, but also to practice to have meaningful meetings, to learn by doing how you can have dialogues with youth or youth organizations, to really have it in your body and have it tried out. And also maybe to try methods they haven't tried before, and to have the ability to bring those home. That, in the main, is the project. It's soon ending. It's ending in December, and we will keep bringing these ideas with us in our municipality or in our agency, and maybe in the municipalities around this country too, and all over the Nordic countries. And we hope that you will do that too. But now we will have the chance to hear more about the results that come out from the discussions we had at the conference. And I ask you one more thing. I have asked you before to just relax and be with me. But right now, take out a piece of paper or some part of thing in your computer, or just take a pen and be able to write on the wall if that's possibly where you are. And be prepared to, when you hear these results, it is something that gets extra important for you. It is something that you're feeling for more. It's something that makes you angry. It's something you maybe heard like 110 times before, and this will be 111th, and you need to point that down. Or it's something you don't agree at all. Make sure to listen and write down one thing from this presentation. For now, I gave the floor to a colleague and a friend of mine, Vendela. Please give us the results.
Yeah.
I think we get to start from the beginning one more time, please. Go for it.
Thank you, Linus. Let's talk about the insights and conclusions from the Nordic Youth Perspective conference, the dialogue conference that took place earlier in November. As Lena said, the thematic focuses of the discussions had been derived from input from young delegates at preparatory meetings and also input from governmental agencies. So throughout 2 days, extensive and creative dialogues in small groups, where the representatives contributed with insights of youth's mental well-being, and these insights are directed to the Nordic Council of Ministers, and I'm here to present some of the preliminary results from the conference. So what did the 80 delegates have to say? The first thematical focus was participation as a factor promoting well-being. And the discussion resulted in a call for more inclusive decision-making processes and safe spaces for youth to express their opinions. It also resulted in a clear demand on national governments to establish structures to facilitate participation of minority groups in public decision-making, enabling them to express their needs. Schools need to be an accessible arena for youth organizations and public debate. This was a clear message from the groups. We need to open up schools and allow the youth organizations to bring urgent issues of that young people want to discuss to the schools. It's also essential to listen to young people about how they want to participate. This was a clear message, and this means involving them in all the steps of the process, and it means it is seen as a necessary step to ensure that the involvement is meaningful and also aligned with their interests. The discussions also suggested that professionals and civil servants that work with young people should receive mandatory training on youth participation, possibly by youth mentors. And lastly, the Nordic Council of Ministers should ensure effective youth participation. And to make youth participation effective, it is crucial to recognize the capacities of young people, build trust and foster a supportive environment and ensure transparency through the process. What we can see here is that sorry, I have one more. The Nordic Council of Ministers should also further explore how we can make sure children and young people get sufficient political self-esteem and knowledge about their rights and the political systems to influence decisions. So what we see here is a clear focus on how participation is a necessary step for promoting well-being. We can also see that we're not talking about the need for young people to know more about their rights. We're going one step further in these discussions and talking about establishing structures and forums for participation. There's a clear division of responsibility. The governmental bodies are clearly appointed the responsibility of creating these spaces, and young people need to be invited as experts on their own life and experts on their own mental well-being. We are talking about participation both for groups and for individuals. The next thematical focus was on safe childhood environments, and these discussions ended up being all about how the civil society promotes safe childhood environments. To do this, the delegates are calling out for sufficient and stable long-term funding to sustain and strengthen civil society. They are making a connection between a stable and robust civil society and the creation of safe and supportive environments for children that promotes their well-being. They are calling out for local, regional and national as well as international bodies to fund civil society and to provide clear and accessible information on grant requirements as a tool for leveling the playing field between small grassroots organizations and larger entities. The participants of the conference also see need to improve relationships between government officials and civil society. They recommend visits and measurements to build relationships between these parties rather than merely exercising control and unnecessary bureaucracy as well. The Nordic Council of Ministers should prioritize funding for inclusive community building programs. Once again, the focus is on the stable and long-term programs rather than short-term projects. And what is clear here is that civil society is seen as both a resource to secure young people's environments, but also as a promoter of mental well-being. So long-term funding and conditions that enable stable and long-term programs are really the focus. We will come back to this later. Meaningful leisure activities promoting mental well-being. That is the third thematical focus of the conference. Here, the participants ended up in a call for local governments to utilize youth councils as a key for involving young people in creating conditions for meaningful leisure opportunities. They are also saying that we need to empower youth at the local level to actively shape and create a meaningful, accessible leisure time and accessible leisure activities in their communities by involving them in all stages. So it's not only about having access to leisure activities, it's also about being able to shape what those activities should involve and also to have control over the conditions that enable you to access these. The representatives are recognizing local, regional, national, and international governmental bodies as a source for funding, a responsible party to fund, sustain leisure activities that foster mental well-being and create safe spaces. Another conclusion is that the Nordic Council of Ministers should support knowledge development and exchange on how to engage youth in meaningful leisure activities that align with their interests and promotes mental well-being. So we need to learn more about how this can be done. What we can say about the meaningful leisure activities is that participation keeps on coming up again and again. It's a very clear message, both that we need these concrete tools and forums such as youth councils, but also those more broader calls for more knowledge on how to involve young people in forming their leisure activities. An education system that promotes mental well-being was also a topic of discussion, and here we focused on going from an education system that creates unnecessary unhealth or stress and anxiety to instead see what would happen if we would create a system that promotes mental well-being. What would that look like? So the conclusions that our delegates came up with was that they are calling for the Nordic governments to secure funding allocated to support mental well-being within schools. They are saying that the rights of students to influence the educational system has to be established in law in all Nordic countries. They're also saying that the Nordic Council of Ministers should support the development of knowledge on models to ensure children and young people that they can actively co-create educational systems. This is once again the recurring theme or the pattern here is that we need funding and we need formal structures for implementation. It's not enough to teach young people about their rights, but we also need to have formalized their right to influence in law. So the participants want to go one step further here in their call for participation and in their call for funding. Accessible, equitable and proactive support and care was the last thematical focus. The group ended up in a discussion about the national governments and what their responsibilities are. They are calling for national governments in the Nordic region to allocate sufficient resources to ensure that young people have access to equitable, proactive and easily accessible support and care systems. It's a preventive focus. It's in contrast to a reactive focus. They are saying that care systems should be designed around the needs of the child rather than forcing the child to navigate through a fragmented institutional structure. So we need to have a more holistic approach to design around the child. And they're calling for governments to actively involve young people in shaping support and care system, both at the systematic level and as individuals. And the clear message from these groups was that we need these kind of structures and the participation of young people. They become even more necessary when we're talking about children or young people that belong to vulnerable groups, young people that belong to minorities or are growing up in rural areas where the access can be limited to healthcare. And the Nordic Council of Ministers should support a further exploration on how to foster healthy communities in spaces where children spend their time. So we need to go to the children and see how we can support them as a community. There are some reoccurring similarities or patterns in all of the discussions, and one of them is, of course, the participation of young people. One quote to exemplify a typical discussion or what it sounded like earlier in November when the groups were meeting and talking is this. We need to talk about how young people can be involved systematically and not just as a one-time thing. It is about doing it and involving young people in doing it. So there's a clear focus on actually carrying out the participation processes and coming up with concrete measurements. We also hear that young youth representation and youth opinions are needed in everything. But we also hear a slightly different view. So we had one camp saying that youth representation and youth opinions is necessary in all decisions everywhere. And another camp saying that we should involve and support participation of young people in decisions that affects them. And also secure that young people from vulnerable groups are heard and included. So two slightly different views on participation and what it should look like. But participation is the similar and reoccurring theme. It's throughout the entire conference was very clear that the responsibility of creating these participation processes should be on governmental bodies, not on young people, but young people need to be recognized as experts. Another recurring theme is funding. And we had one participant saying that there are so many great ideas and initiatives, but not enough financial support from public policy. Here, of course, civil society was a big focus of the discussions and the role that civil society can fill as a service provider. But what it all came back to was that the responsibility of either providing the conditions for civil society to be able to play their part, or the responsibility of funding is on the governmental bodies. And a bit easier put, and maybe a bit more straightforward, one group had this to say: bad funding is the root of all evil. So funding seems to be another recurring theme. And overall, the groups had a very cross-sectoral approach, I would say. They were talking about the need for cooperation between different arenas and the need for co-creation. They had this this view when they all gather from different perspectives, coming from different agencies, coming from different countries, representing different age groups. They landed in a systematic level. The basis of the discussion, or the focus of the discussion, was on this systematic level. And then they are ending up talking about these tools or focuses as participation and funding that can actually be the same in the same solution in many different areas. So that was the preliminary results, and they're going to be keeping analyzed, but that is what we had to present today.
Thank you so much, Vendela. Do you have time for like a small question? So it was great presentation, super interesting ideas or opinions. But you went through all this material or all these ideas or all these papers that were written during this conference. What was your feeling? Was it anger, or was it like hope, or was it like despair, or what was the feeling in those ideas or thoughts that you have read?
I would say that it was actually quite a journey that you could follow. So when the groups were talking about the problem and trying to define all the challenges, well, then it was kind of, I don't want to say dark, but it was a lot of frustration and anger. But when we came to analyzing the materials focused on solutions and looking forward, there was a positive message.
In the end, they went through something,
something
there. Is it something more like from a personal level? Because I know you work with these ideas, and we had a great lecture also on the conference about use perception and use perspective. Is it something more you want to add from a personal perspective after looking at this information?
I think it's interesting that even though they come from, or maybe because they come from different countries, different agencies, different youth organizations, that they all seem to gather around these conclusions about participation and funding as something that is necessary in all these different areas as a promoter of well-being. So I think it's interesting that they land on the systematic level and are quite clear in what they are calling for.
That's interesting, because we had people in this conference from all the Nordic countries, and also Greenland, Färöarna, and Åland. That's something we are really proud of, that there were in this 80 people we could get all these country representatives. But it was nothing there either. You could select a special country or a special idea or something coming out from the.
Of course we could follow. They had a lot of great examples from different national perspectives, and also the problem descriptions were, of course, sometimes similar and sometimes contrasting each other, but they seem to find common ground in these solutions on the systematic level about funding, about collaboration, about participation, and these holistic preventive approaches, not these reactive measures and short-term funding and short-term projects.
And thank you, Vendela, thank you for your work, and thank you so much for this presentation. Thank you very much. And of course, I think all of you like, how could I find this presentation? How I missed the point 3 on the 4th paper. We will, I promise you, put this out on our website shortly, and you can download it there. And we will, of course, also take this into consideration and all the other ideas from this project in our final reports that will be clear later this year and maybe in the next year. All right. We had heard the presentation, and now we will have a short panel or a discussion about these ideas, and also about the process we had together. So we will have a 15 seconds little jingle coming up very soon here. So make sure during that time to move around a little bit and be ready for some new ideas and perspective. We will see you in 15 seconds. Då är vi tillbaka. Hej och hallå, hoppas ni hann göra en riktigt lång joggingtur där från de 15 sekunderna så att ni är... Oh, sorry, in English. There, thank you. I missed the language. Okay, this is a Nordic meeting. I know you, hopefully all of you understand this. And for you from Iceland and Finland, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And Greenland, Färöarna also, of course. We should speak English in this conference. Thank you. There you see, mistakes makes all over the time. And it's interesting with mistakes, because sometimes it's the mistakes you will remember. And great mistakes can also make a great difference and also makes something new happen in life. You should never be that afraid of your mistakes. I promise you that. All right. Hopefully I will keep talking English for the rest of the conference because the thing I will do now is present two wonderful people that was a part of the conference in two different ways, and they are lovely people and they are here to give their perspective. Hello to you, Stina and Sigge. Welcome. Stina and Sigge sounds as you could have any kind of TV show ever together if you like. Stina, please just introduce yourself a little bit more and what your role was on the conference.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Stina. I work as a project leader for Youth 2030 Movement, which is a civil society in Sweden working to strengthen young people's voices. And during this conference, I was the main process leader and the process designer for the exercises and the workshops that we were doing during these days.
Cool. Thank you. Welcome. We will come back to you very soon, but also, Sergei, I just want to hear, you work for something called LSU. Is that a strange organization, government organization, or what is that?
Yes, thank you, Linus, and good afternoon to all of the listeners as well. My name is Sigge Eriksson, and I'm the first vice president of the National Youth Council of Sweden, which is in Swedish LSU, or it's a shortening is LSU. We are gathering the young civil society of Sweden. So we are about 85 member organizations that works in different topics from climate to politics, policy, advocacy, you name it.
All right. And you're the vice president?
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What's the most fun to be the vice president for this organization?
The most fun part is to meet the members and have dialogues and also see how the real work is done in our member organizations, especially in local communities. That I think is the most fun part.
And I guess you've been also organized by yourself in some youth organizations when you were maybe younger or before you work in the LSU, or maybe you're still doing that, or what's your grassroots?
Yeah, my member organization is the Swedish Organization for Local Youth Councils. So it's mainly policy work on the local and regional level. So that has been my background before LSU.
All right, okay. But now you're here for LSU. And I know that you have a lot of points that you want to put on from the conference. But Stina, we will start in the process because this conference had an idea both of taking out new ideas and methods and solve the problem with that youth have health issues or with the well-being, but also to practice new way to have meetings and this dialogues. And I guess could be a challenge to take 80 people that maybe never met each other before to go into the same place and in 2 days try to find this kind of results, and especially when they also are from so many different countries and maybe cultures and so on. Can you take us through what happened during these 2 days?
So we set out having quite a strategic focus on dialogue being on the center stage and creating a safe place where the participants could build trust and share their experience and get new perspectives and have this kind of dialogue that we had a theory was needed and that we had heard in these preparatory meetings were needed. There was a longing to actually meet between these groups. So that was kind of the focus. So during the first day, we had a focus on raising perspectives in the room, who were there. And we did this by a few different dialogue exercises, but mainly kind of showing that there are different perspectives. And as the Danish representative said in the introductory film we saw in the beginning, that some issues are the same and some ways to handle those issues are the same between the Nordic countries, but some are not. And to kind of cast light on those kind of things and see how are we talking about mental well-being in different perspectives in the Nordics. So that was kind of the focus during day one, and during day two we kind of wanted people to dive a bit deeper in smaller groups to actually explore these kind of thematic issues and develop these solutions, but also to share good examples and maybe some bad examples as well, and actually kind of get to know each other a bit better. So that was kind of the arch that we went through during this process, and doing it with a lot of different kind of tools and methods to not maybe drag on, but kind of just get an excuse to sit together and talk about these issues.
Yeah, you could see like on the move also, and I was there like on the tables. You had like there were envelopes in different colors, there were a lot of different pencils, there were some plus and toys and so on. I mean, this is an extremely like important issue we're talking about, like something that could be on life or death if you go really strong on. Yeah. Why is it important to have those kind of tools in this kind of discussions?
Well, the first thing is it's fun. And we need to have more fun conferences and a bit more fun meetings. And also when talking about these kind of heavy subjects, it's good to kind of have these kind of things that break off and create different kind of experiences when talking about it, because it can be quite heavy sometimes, especially for all of these people who participated, who work with this every day and kind of struggle with these kind of things in their countries and in their organizations. But also we need different things to think and to be clever. I usually bring my knitting to conferences, but I know people who need to doodle, or some people that think best if it's completely silent, and some people who think best in a dialogue. And if we can cater to those kind of needs, we get better results, because then everybody has a chance to be their best self. So to have those opportunities is very important.
I guess you have been on lots of meetings in your life. Yeah. In different
I guess so.
And also these meetings between like government organizations and youth organizations, and maybe also between youth organizations by themselves. Are we good on doing good meetings, or what's your take on that? Are your meetings fun or important?
Hopefully important, fun. Not always sure, but the main thing for me, I don't know, as Stina has mentioned, accessibility, and that you feel secure, and that also that there are low barriers for having this kind of discussions, because as you said, many of the topics that we touched upon are heavy, and you have, or some might have like personal experience in the area, so you need to have low barriers to have the kind of discussions. But the most important thing for me is that we work with follow-up, we work with what can we do with recommendations, what we been presented here today. So the idea or the main take from my side is that you have the whole process have both meaningful youth participation, but also that you have tangible outcomes that you can work or you can use in different kind of policy dialogues or with policy recommendations with stakeholders. So for me, it's important to have like a whole, or take a whole grasp stance on this.
You're in an important there with the inclusion, that you could be part of the meeting, whoever you are, and or the right persons are at the meeting. Because sometimes I feel that you are at the meeting and then you don't really know if you're talking to the right person with this issue, or if that person are interested to listen maybe, or be in the dialogue. And we have a promise that we will use these results and present them, but we will see. There was a lot of things changing changing the education system. I mean, it's something that maybe I haven't got that on my table yet. For the next year, we will see what we do next year. But that could maybe be sometimes a challenge when you have these like big systematical changes that you want to see to work with this issue. But in the same way, you want to see results, or you want to see have a point to be there. How should you? You can start again.
Oh, sorry.
No, go. Okay. It's fight for the work.
No, I just wanted to add that for me, as a representative of a youth organization, we have a mutual interest both from the institutions, agencies, but also from from the National Youth Council and also our members that work with these outcomes, both when it comes to advocacy work, but also when we have different kind of discussions and meetings with stakeholders, because then you can show that we had a process here, Nordic Youth Perspective in Stockholm, who gather young people and civil servants from all over the region, and then we had this kind of outcome. So this is what we in general agreed upon, and this is really what the work we could put forward. So for me is that you should also both respect but also take into consideration this is a mutual process between agencies, institutions, and also the young people that are invited.
Yeah, and I think that this is a first step. I think that we all know that during a conference you can only get so far.
Yeah.
The real work begins after the conference. And we talked a lot about building trust during the conference and lowering the barriers, and that work needs to be continued, because now we're at a systemic level. But this needs to actually, if it should create action and create these kind of changes that the participants are asking for, they need to be kind of filtered down into some local levels, some regional levels, some national levels, and some might be on a Nordic level, but they need to be filtered down throughout, and that needs a continuous process. And there might be more Nordic Youth Perspective meetings, or more meetings on mental well-being, and more connecting between civil servants and youth organizations, where these conversations can be taken further. And I think that is really important.
So the important is also who will read and who will act. If you have the power to change, for example, the education system, then this is to you. If someone listen to this and are in charge of the education system, so please talk to us more if you want to get more information of that. We promise you to give you that. But something here is a bit interesting. I mean, we got funding here from the Nordic Council, the European Union, and we were also want to have a youth perspective on well-being. And maybe if you look at the results, they are quite like on a system level, maybe they are like lacking. Why this we could talk about other topics and got maybe the same results, or sort of in the same area for have a chance to be part of something, or the feeling of being included and those issues. Can we comment on that? Is this a result we could have, or is it something wrong with the people we brought to the conference, because we select them very carefully to have people that are interested in the topics? Why do you think they are so broad, and why do we talk about other things than just well-being in the results?
But I think a lot of conversations centered around community building and trust building as a part of mental well-being. And I think that we all can connect to that. And big parts of community building, it's respect and it's trust and those kind of things. And I think that funding and participation are two kind of cornerstones to actually do that in the systems that we are working within today, no matter if it's on the local level or regional or national levels. They are foundations to actually bring action and not just end up in great discussions.
Yeah, and as well that you have to face the reality that civil society, and when it comes to working with mental health issues and also decreasing loneliness, or not decreasing, but feeling lonely. Yeah, that's right. And the civil society and this community building really has a core effect when it comes to finding new friends, finding a place where you feel secure. So you really must face reality that civil society plays a big role when it comes to mental health issues, and I think it's great to have the links between this as for the agency put this as a topic, because during the discussions I participated in, we had different, perhaps regional or something that was different in a specific context. But in general, we feel like the same when it comes to loneliness and mental illness, and we want more accessible healthcare. So a lot of like the outcomes are quite similar, or the discussions that I took part in. So I can't speak for everyone. So that's also interesting that we are a broad region. You talked about Greenland and the Scandinavian countries and Iceland. Like it's a big region that we have focused on, but still we have the same kind of issues.
But also I feel like community building is also a part of the co-creation of actually meeting. Community building, civil society is a very important part of that, but public offices and government is a very important part of that as well. And while having a co-creation process where these parties meet, it's not unusual and it's not strange that community building and co-creation also is one of the outcomes, because you kind of realize, this is one of the things that maybe I've been missing. These kind of dialogues might be something that we need in my everyday life. So I think that it's I'm not surprised by that result.
Okay. We will soon add one person into this panel. I'm looking forward to take him in here. But I just want to, Stina, for you, one small thing that we also did in this process, that we had a pre-meeting first with those 40 persons that come from agencies or from that work with this thing all the time. And another meeting we had with the youth organizations before we started the conference together. We worked it out in a dialogue. Why is it important? Or what's the meaning of having those kind of meetings before?
I think there's a twofold or even many more folded reason for that. One is about building trust and building safety. Some people are more used to going to conferences than others, especially international conferences held in a second language. It can be quite nice to not only get like an agenda, but also to see a face of someone you meet and see faces of other people in the same situation as you. But the other one is about power equalization. When we meet between civil society and public servants, we go into that meeting having different kind of power structures in our back. And some are to the benefit of the civil servants and some are to the benefit of the civil society. But we need to address those and we need to at least articulate those and kind of be aware of the norms and the structures that we bring with us. And by having these meetings beforehand, we can have that. And we can kind of have that in the back of our heads when we then start the conference. It's easier to meet than as in ögonhöjd. In the
same level.
At the same level, when the conference actually starts. So it's twofold, and I can see that there are many other reasons as well.
Okay. Cool. We will talk more about the results of the conference, and we will do that together with one more person, Shaheen, so we will take in here on stage. But we will give you then 50 seconds to move around a little bit and come back. And then you will, first of all, hear Shaheen's ideas and thoughts, and we will see which language I will start it in after 15 seconds. See you soon. Hello, and welcome back. And see, you learn from your mistakes. That's the thing with mistakes, that you do them and things can happen, and then you learn. And now we are back in English directly. That's great for me, and hopefully also for you. And what I'm also super grateful is to introduce Shaheen. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Linus.
Yeah.
Very glad to be here.
Yes, you are the Swedish youth delegate to Nuuk. Can you just explain for us what that means, or yes?
Of course. Thank you for being here, and thank you for my dear colleagues and for the conference that have been taking place. Nuuk is the committee for Nordic children and young people, and it's advisory board and coordinating body within the Nordic Council of Ministers, consisting of 2 representatives each from all the Nordic countries, and I'm the youth representative from Sweden through LSU.
Is it fun?
Extremely fun, I would say, and it's a great potential that we have within the Nordic Council of Ministers, and I hope that we could utilize it even more.
Interesting, thank you. And so maybe if someone of you want to become that, or from a youth organization in Sweden, then, or maybe the other Nordic countries, you can try to Google and look it up how you can become one of those. But Shane, you listened to the panel, but also like you were at the conference. What's your main take that you brought with you from that meeting in Stockholm?
Yeah, I would like to start by saying that this conference is the result of the initiative of the Swedish chairmanship within the committee, and it aligns with the vision 2030 that within the Nordic Council of Ministers. And I would like to say that we have to take this into consideration, that we have extremely high ambitious goals within the Nordic region, and the outcomes are well aligned with these goals. So somewhere already the politicians and legislators have already they're already agreeing with the outcomes, but we have to work for more accountability in regards to the conference. I think it's about having a livable life, and this includes the cross-sectoral cooperation, multidisciplinary and a holistic approach, as has been said, and also engaging new stakeholders and giving the feeling of ownership for those who are a part of this common society and the common society we want to build together.
Yeah, and these big like visions that the Nordic Council has, it's like, and that's the reason why also you're founding this project, and just founding is something also that comes up in these ideas. And I turn over maybe to you, Sigge. I guess founding is something you work with a lot there. Like, are there enough fundings for youth organizations, or what's the issue here? Do not people understand, or do you spend your money on the wrong thing, or what's the issue with funding?
Well, I'm here representing the young civil society, so I'll have to answer no, that there is not enough funding for youth organizations. But the main idea, or the what you should take into consideration, is really what is the result of the civil society? What do we actually do, and what do we actually achieve? We start with the meaningful. Meaningful fritid.
Leisure activities.
That's correct.
Yes.
Meaningful leisure activities. You also decrease loneliness. You prevent mental illness. You also work with local communities. And what we actually do is that we are seen to some extent as also civil servants,
yes.
but we are not really recognized in that sense, because a lot of people, a lot of participants that were at this conference, this Nordic Youth Perspective conference in Stockholm, were there as volunteers. And I'm not saying that is incorrect or it should be in a different way, but you have to take into consideration young people are doing this on a voluntary basis, and they really want to make a change for the local communities and on national level. So the funding part is also crucial for helping with sustainable engagement and leadership, because if you have long-term funding, long-term cooperation, either who is the funder, it's always easier to have like a long-term approach, which is the most important part when you want to have like a stable organization for a long period of time in the future.
So if I understanding is like we get funding, this good funding for doing one project like this, and we try to get youth perspective on that, but to be able to have a youth perspective, or you to be able to put your time, there need a long time financing for that. Because we had some issues with like finding the youth organization or get them to prioritize to be in our conference, because they had maybe much other important things to do, and even if they thought the idea of the conference was good, or the idea that we want to talk about was important for their organization. So it's you need to cooperate these two together.
Yeah, that's correct. And as you say, that having lack of representatives from either which country is of course problematic, and the reason behind it's hard to me to elaborate on that, because I'm not aware, but it could be that you have a hard time finding volunteers at a specific moment, or that you need to prioritize some kind of other other activities on national level.
So is this like a Nordbrook issue, or is this a national issue? What would you say, Shane, or should we take a broader project on this?
I can say what we have done within Nordbook as of we started this project, and we recently had the last meeting where promises were made to continue with this and allocate funds for it. But I think in general the important thing is the long-term side in regards to this. I fully agree with everything that has been said from here. What we can do from Nordbook is to raise the local, regional and national questions on the Nordic level, but of course the question of funding, but also I would like to say the question of respect, because that's what it is all about. One cannot expect one certain group in society, children and youth, to voluntarily forever participate with their expertise and knowledge. It costs, but it's the best investment that one could make on all levels. So I think it's the mindset that has to be changed in general in regards to the participation and of children and youth.
Yeah, and shortly to add on, this is also mentioned in the recommendations that was presented by Vendela earlier today, like to have on the participation promotes well-being, that the Nordic Council of Ministers should recognize the capacity of young people, build trust, foster support environment, and ensure transparency throughout the process. So this is mentioned, but I will also be clear on this. It has to be a mutual trust. It has to be trust from the agencies and from the institutions given to us, but also a trust and respect to the institutions, because they're also doing this as their job. Yeah. So it has to be like a mutual understanding on where we stand on this.
Stina, short, you do a lot of this municipality level and different levels in Sweden, and I know we were in Norway just a few days ago too. Is it something is this an issue that to get young people to have the chance to be part of participation when they get invited?
Yeah, I think that this is an issue for many levels, and I think that it's something that most people in all the Nordic countries agree on. But I think that the important part here is the responsibility to build those kind of structures, to invite and to change those perspectives must lie on the adult system. Yeah. It cannot be put upon the civil society. That must be, or the young civil society, that must be on our part as adults within the society.
My friends, we have a short time left on this panel, and I just want to put in the last question. You get the word, each of you, and this was the Nordic Youth Perspective on well-being that we just have been part of, and this project is soon over. It could be a Nordic Youth Perspective on some other topic, maybe, and I encourage anyone who wants to do that to do that. And is it like something we could bring with us from this conference, or is it something that you would like to have a Nordic Youth Perspective on next year or the coming years that coming up here? Sheena, I give the word to you first. This is something you will put up more.
From Nordbook, our initial goal has been to start this and to have it during a longer term of period, whereas we are very positive with the Finnish chairmanship that will come now during next year to provide the necessities needed for this to continue. And as being said, I think it's important to involve as much stakeholders as possible and make it accessible as possible, putting emphasis on the minority groups, the remote areas, and seeing that it's, as mentioned several times before, it's cross-sectoral. We need to think extremely broad in regards to this. And what I take with me is that we need more of these type of initiatives for knowledge development and exchange.
Oh, thank you. And you're sitting on the decisions over there, so hopefully get it. Stina, short.
I dream of a Nordic perspective on youth participation. Yes. That would be very much fun.
All right, great. Yeah.
Well, short, I guess.
What you bring with you, and you have a minute. Go it.
Go ahead. No, I agree on the stance of my colleagues. But one thing that I think is important that you should look into is this could perhaps be a Nordbook application of some kind that you see, like how do you work with follow-up and how do you work with follow-up with institutions, and a lot of money and time is put in both from the institution side but also from the civil society side to be part in these kind of events and initiatives. So it's really important that you have some kind of overview and structure and strategy to how do we really work with implementation and follow-up. So that is an idea I've been thinking of for quite some time, but I think perhaps Shaheen should heads up.
Take with you. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sigge. Thanks to Christina. Thank you, Shaheen, to take your time and your ideas and share them with us with this discussion. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. And this will be the ending of this digital hour and the ending of this project that soon will be over. But now it's up to you. Lead by doing out, do the mistakes, and come back and do something else with that. We can promise that we will keep telling the ones who ask us to present this result. I promise you to do that, and we'll present it for Nordic also later next year. But the easiest way to do change is to start with yourself. If you are at the conference, still something you hear that maybe was it a small dialogue effect, or was it something else, or was it a connection with some persons from Fair Islands that you really want to connect with, do that. Start with yourself. It's a big pleasure to having this project and to meet all you. Thank you for all your energy and help to make this project as good as it has been. Thank you and goodbye.